Welcome to Light Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me again Guion Hughes,
Thank you.
and we have Shemosh. Welcome to the channel, Shemosh.
Thank you.
All right,
It's an
so we're
honor
going
to
to
be
be
here,
talking
guys.
about. Well, you're good, man. All right, we're going to be talking about healing, and so now concerning healing, let me ask you guys something. You guys are of the belief that if someone's sick, if someone has a physical illness, a lot of times it's because people's chakras are blocked, or there's some kind of deeper issue than that. You guys are of that belief, right?
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, what, go ahead, Guion.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, I mean, I think that there may be something I think people just enunciate it differently. They get their head wrapped around it differently. But I think, for myself, I think healing is more, I look at it more like development because even the day you're born, you have to heal from your birth, I mean, and then even after you've healed from coming out the birth canal and all that, you have to actually develop and you're kind of in a broken state because you can't walk. All you know is the breast. It's all instinct. So even the development of childhood is a form of kind of like healing. I would call it development and healing kind of go hand in hand. And like throughout life, there's always going to be something that puts people back to a certain degree where they're healing either from a emotional, mental, or physical pains or injuries or conditions, things like that. So I think it's an ongoing process. I mean, life and healing and development and evolution, it all kind of like goes together. I don't even know if you have to have something sick or something off because something is always going to come up, whether it's old age or diabetes or whatever, So everything always comes up, and you have to kind of either maintain that or you're in the process of healing. Like I have diabetes, for example, and I have to take medication every day, watch what I eat, all this stuff. That's a form of kind of healing, but it's like preventative, because I don't want to have a bad issue with diabetes, like a stroke or something, and then I'll have to heal from that. So I think it's development, healing. I mean, I'm trying to fit it all into like a thing of maybe a three, like a trinity as far as healing or development. Might go along with evolution even or something like that, or transformation or ascendance or things like that. It's a part of life. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Shamash, what's your take?
So, there's now. I'm not. I have to give a quick disclaimer. I'm not fit to give medical advice. I'm not a doctor. Um, there are many reasons why people get sick. Sometimes it's psychosomatic. Sometimes they are in an. So there's so Belial uh, told me there's something called environmental contagion. Now, if you're around low vibrational people, like people that are, and I'm not just talking about like you went down on some dirty broad. I mean, like, forgive me, females, for uh, sounding chauvinistic there. If you had something dirty in your mouth, chances are you're going to get sick. Now, the germs, you could say that germs are gin, microscopic organisms that invade your energy space. Again, if you're deficient, if your energy fields are weak, then these things can find their way into through your aura and attach onto you and cause all kinds of difficulties and illness. Even it doesn't have to be physical illness; it could be a mental illness.
Mental illness, yeah.
So you have to. So there's you can take salt baths. Those are good. That'll set your energy field back to neutral. It's shower at least once a day, folks. Have your
Yeah, I should be
environment be
managed.
clean. Like, you don't have to be OCD about it, but in the place where you perform your ritual or you pray or whatever you do, have it be clean. Like clean floors,
Yeah,
like a clean environment. So
yeah.
environmental
So
contagion is a real thing, and Yeah, there's a lot of things
So
that can make you sick,
you would
and most of
you
all,
would
you can make
go
yourself
ahead.
sick.
So you would agree then that, and I've been saying this for years, is that um, when you're going to do a ritual or a spell, it's good to have your space clean. It's good to have your home clean. That way you get a stronger energetic current going through. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, spiritual hygiene. It's like
Right.
it's a thing.
Right on. And you were going to say, you were about to say something. I had cut you off. You said there's a lot of, and then you're going to say something.
Who, me?
Yeah,
Um, I don't quite. I can't.
it's
I
okay.
have to. I
It's
have to
okay.
stay in the here and now. Like I don't know what
It's
I
all
was
right.
going to say, but
That's okay.
yeah,
Now,
yeah. For
people,
practitioners, it's important. It's important to have a clean space, clean your aura. Um, uh, Take salt baths. There's a lot now. Um, Asmodeus taught me this one. Warm water in a bathtub. I don't take a lot of baths. I usually shower. But if you're really feeling energetically bombarded by lower vibrational intelligences, cinnamon forget the salt. Just do cinnamon in the bath water. That's so there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and each one corresponds with a specific entity. And Asmodeus or Asmodel on the light side of the tree. So you have its counterpart, Asmodeus or Ashmodeva, would be on the night side, and Asmodel would be the day side counterpart. And it told me if you're feeling lethargic or entropy starting to take over, just cinnamon and take a bath in that, and that'll clear your energy field without going back to neutral. See, when you take a salt bath, whatever good, like higher vibrations that you've built up, it'll dissipate. It'll all get set back to neutral. And so,
okay. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
that's good advice then.
I had a comment
But
about the so about the clean house thing, and I can see the opposite of that too. If you're going more on the left-hand path or something like that, it's like people don't realize that a lot of it, especially in the Middle Ages and stuff like that, the manifestation of demons came in like what we would commonly call vermin, like cockroaches and ants and spiders and things like that, dust and because to them, especially flies, stuff, that's why they call Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies. It's like these things appeared to them because they didn't have any scientific background to just come out of nowhere, you know, to just come out of nowhere. And so they were like, that must be manifestation of spirits, manifestation of demons. If it's ugly or stuff like spiders and flies and roaches and rats, and then manifestation of something more positive if it's like a dove that shows up, or something that's more positive, like even a dog or something like that, a deer or a gazelle or something. They'd be like, oh well, that's a sign of a good spirit coming. And I mean that's where it comes to. So yeah, I think if you're gonna go in the more light side, you should do like major cleanings, and they have that in witchcraft a lot too. Even they have a whole cleaning day and everything. They have floor washes and hoodoo and voodoo and stuff
Yeah.
where that they mix it all in and stuff like that with the herbs and everything. Like you're saying, cinnamon's one. They have all these different ones. They have a Florida water. There's all kinds of different smells and things like that, and the environment and everything. It really does build the practice, whether you're going on the light side or the dark side or in between, and choosing which one to do here or there.
So let me set the
Mm,
record straight when it comes to Beelzebub or Valzevul or
Hmm.
Bizbul. So that was a derog. So when they said Lord of the Flies, that was like a derogatory thing that the Jews gave. They basically they were basically making fun of them.
Hmm.
So it literally Valzevul means birth or Lord of the High House.
Hmm.
Um, To me, that Beelzebub is Belial. It's the same thing. But
Yeah, I would say that.
what is also interesting is Yod He Vav He, or Yahweh, if you spell it backwards. So we can do something real quick. So you have a day side counterpart and a night side counterpart. And an epithet or another name for Belial is Haveoth, which is HVHY. So that's literally Yahweh backwards. So it's like you have polarities. And this is supposed to be a healing thing. So a Yehudim is this can be a healing practice. You would take certain letters and you would mix them up. Instead of Yod He Vav He, you would have Vav He He Yod, or Yod Vav He He, and so on and so forth. And there's certain Yehudim that you can do for certain things, and things are going to happen when you pronounce these letters. Like there's a specific formula for money, and that formula you do meditations and visualizations. Samek Aleph Lamed. So that's a tremendous secret that is not very well known amongst non-practicing Kabbalists.
Mhm.
If you could concentrate on those letters, if you're having money troubles, you're basically asking the supreme consciousness to uh, 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 let money come into your situation,
Hmm.
sort of thing. Just like people work with certain beings for money, but I found that this is a very very it's a good way, and the way that it manifests a lot of time is not may not be how you would expect it. It's not like you may not win the lottery, but like uh, a tree might fall in your neighborhood, and your neighbor's like, "Yo, $500, bro, help me chop this up and get rid of it," like stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it has to come. It has to look like it's coming in a natural way.
Yeah, yeah. Just I don't want to get too off topic, but it is kind of related since you mentioned Beelzebub and that how that went, and Bilal actually a lot of the way that it was they took it as a Hebrew without worth. Bilal is without worth, and the way that Anton LaVey took it is without master, which actually sounds like really, I mean, if you look at all the Enochian he has in the Satanic Bible, it's really turned around to actually
It's
say,
mistranslated. Yeah,
yeah, it's translated in
just
favor
to
of that,
sound
which
cooler.
is which is really kind of a paradox though, because like, so is that more light sorcery there in the Satanic Bible, or was it more dark for like the actual Christians or whoever was saying, without worth, Lord of the Flies and all that, or for somebody to take it and say, no, it's without master. It means, like this and that, and take the negatives and trying to make them positive. In a sense, that might be like more like light. I don't know. What do you
You
think? I
know
mean, it's
what?
kind of a
I
paradox.
think I think that I think it depends. To outsiders, Christians looking at it might be, something dark to them, something they, intimidating. But for people who may have been um, emotionally or psychologically damaged by the church, then it might be light sorcery to them.
Hmm.
It's helping them develop and helping them sort things out. So I think
Hmm.
it depends on the person whether it's dark or light to them. What do you think, Shamash?
Well, what is good to me may be evil to you.
Right.
Like you're familiar with what Elohim is. Elohim.
Hmm.
That would be considered loosely translated as judge or ruler or high ranking angel. Uh, now, uh, we pronounce it as Allah, which is basically Allah. And we were taught that we have our spiritual guides. We all have guardian daemons, guardian angels. And we're taught that, like I said, we're the boots on the ground, we're the eyes and ears. Look at, we were created as, if not, well, we're in a state of evolution, but if not equivalent, but above the angels. I mean, look at the human body. You have arm, leg, arm, head, which spells Allah. So I'm not saying that I'm God. Hashrei Shalom. Like, not tonight, Louis.
Right.
I'm just saying we all have the potential to really do something here. Now, there's different orders of angels that opposed the creator with the creation of human beings. And we're going to call them Mazakin, which are like night hags and screech night birds, and Metrakraim. And they opposed the creator with they said, you're about to create something very powerful, like potentially more powerful than the angels. And the creator was like, yes, I am. And they opposed the creator. They said, look, this thing that you're creating has the potential to destroy your world. So via the system of cosmic justice, the creator gave these orders of angels the power and the right to intervene if someone tried to destroy its creation. Now, it became an abuse of power. These accusers, so what would happen is through different sorceries, you may be misguided into the forms of aeonic sorcery that'll cause big change, like, and that might not be aligned with the evolutionary scale. And these accusations become logged in the cosmic registry, and they convert into cosmic situations, which is potential disaster for the practitioner. So you got to be careful with this stuff, man. Like you start saying these elevated names and making these sounds and vibrations, things are going to happen, and these forces are real. Like not
They
just
are.
thought forms. You can create thought forms and send them forth, and things will happen. But other dark forces and light forces, they're real, and they will act based
Well, it's
on
just chanting certain things and saying certain names. Just you can just feel the shift in the environment. You can just feel the shift in the atmosphere. You know, we've all experienced that. That's very true.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
that ties into also even you know, whether it's words like if you're calling out, there's like the 72 names of gods, the 72 angels, the 72 demons. It's like from more like the Solomonic traditions, but also like just when in my practice, like I would get like I finally got into working with Enochian, what I would call like glossolalia, like a
yeah,
language only to myself and my spirits, like nobody else really understands it. And it's probably
barbarous
best
tongue.
to do
Yeah,
that, and these are like heavy incantations, and it's even more, to me it's even more powerful because it's more of the subconscious, that nobody else does understand it, and it's more mysterious, and it's better because somebody could take, if you say praise God, they could take that and mock it. They could take that and say, well, that's horrible because this guy said praise God and then he killed all these people like Jim Jones. Or they could try to like mess with whatever your incantation is, if it's an English word or a word
now
in
wait a
Spanish or
second.
anything. You can't
Oh,
really do that in glossolalia.
Jim Jones, yeah, he was a cult leader, but the feds burnt those kids alive.
Oh
Like
no, yeah, I
like
think
you
you're
know what
thinking of the
happened there, right?
Jim Jones was the
Wait,
poison. I think you're thinking of David Koresh.
oh, the Waco, Texas thing,
Waco,
right?
The
yeah,
That's what it
Waco
Waco is
one,
the
yeah,
one
yeah.
that where the FBI raided because of the guns and alleged child abuse or whatever. Jim Jones was the one who went to Guyana and actually
I stand corrected. I apologize.
poisoned like 800 people with the Kool-Aid, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, wait. Are you talking about the guy who's like, oh, if you guys kill yourself and poison yourself, we're gonna be taken off on a UFO and
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, no.
we'll
That
walk
that
into
was a different one.
paradise?
That was a different one. That
That's
was the Heaven's Gate. That
Hell
was here
Bob,
in
right?
L.A. Jim
Right.
Jones actually started a church. A lot of it was African American based church people, and he he actually became a communist. He felt that Christianity was socialism basically, right? And so he obviously got some problems. This was like in the 1970s, right? And so we still weren't on board with the people saying I'm a socialist church or whatever. So and on top of that, there was things of abuse and everything. So Jim Jones literally moved his whole congregation, almost 1,000 people, down to Guyana. And I know because my name is kind of like Guyana, and and that's in central, like by Ecuador, so that's like in Central America. And started his own thing where it was like his own commune of socialists, and it was a really cult. It was a cult, and
Yeah.
so they actually didn't raid him, but they sent a senator because people up in the States were like, "Hey, my family disappeared and I can't hear from them." So they sent a senator. They sent like a uh, peacekeeping thing with the senator and some other people from Congress that represented the people, parents back in the States when they found where people wanted to leave with them. There was a certain amount, like 30, 40 people wanted to leave on the plane with them, and they were saying, "Yeah, we're being abused here." So Jim Jones' response to that was actually to gun down the congregation and anybody who wanted to leave. And then he literally told people, he literally already had this planned out where he did a big vat of they commonly say it's Kool-Aid, but I think it was Flavor Aid. It was doesn't matter, mixed it with cyanide and told everybody to drink it. And
There
when
you go.
you realize you drink it and you die, they didn't. So they were forced to do it by gunpoint, and some people were shot. So he definitely wasn't. But the Koresh, I mean, there is some. I saw a documentary on it. David Koresh was actually that was actually a thing of the Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidians is an offshoot of the Seventh Day Adventists, which I'll go by. There's you could look at that. It's a very Gnostic American-based religion.
Yeah.
And that you could say of the FBI did they did burn that there was a fire. The FBI and the government standpoint is that they started the fire, just like the Jim Jones, because these cults, they have plans, and the people that survived did say they have drills where they're like, oh, the government's coming to get us. It's better for us to kill ourselves than to, I believe that there's some stuff in the Bible about that too. It's better for us to take our own lives than let them take our lives or make us slaves or put us in prison or whatever they're going to do. Because we can't live. We can live our consciousness if we die. We can't live. That's just prolonging. More sin. They're making us sin essentially by taking them into their world. So that's why the reference to Jim Jones. I don't think Jim Jones. It's really hard to put any positive spin on him. But Koresh, yeah, like I said, there is what the government would say it's conspiracy theories, but there is things that the FBI handled that all wrong, which I think they did, obviously, because there was kids that got burned and died.
Right. Now, Shamash, let me ask you this. Earlier, Guion said was talking about healing and development going hand in hand. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what type of healing that you're in search of. If you're like PTSD and you're just like mentally wounded or scarred mentally, there's different
Mm,
techniques. Usually shadow work, internal healing, reflection, meditation. These things will help greatly. If you have some type like spiritual ailments and physical ailments, they kind of go hand in hand. Um, but one is usually caused by the other. A lot of people that have experienced great loss or hardship and are wounded spiritually will have physical manifestation of like illnesses. So it's a thing. I would advise people, if the spiritual techniques aren't working for you, speak to a therapist.
Yeah.
I've never
Or
been in
study
therapy.
psychology.
Yeah, but I mean, if you need someone to talk to, like if you got deep rooted, you have to get to the root problems. Like you need to talk. You need to talk to a professional, especially in
Yeah.
in the occult field. Like we're dealing with psychic forces. We're dealing with spiritual forces. And like I said earlier, the clip of Samael dealing with divine madness, you can lose your fucking mind.
Mhm.
And sometimes, reentry can be a bitch, frankly.
I
So,
mean,
So
so
sometimes people get like mental illness from, practicing magic and then, not doing something wrong and then it backfires or just, not basically not being skilled at what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, they become mentally unstable. I mean,
yeah,
that's a symptom,
I
but
so I
you
have this
really got
pet
to take this
theory.
stuff seriously, like you said.
I have this
Go
pet
ahead,
theory,
Guillaume.
that really, and this is kind of just me, and I have studied psychology. I'm a
Right.
chemical dependency counselor, so I've taken several classes, and I practiced, counseling people for addiction and substance abuse. And in the end, and this is one of the reasons that I'm like kind of an outsider of that, and more into harm reduction than abstinence and things like that. Is modern psychology, I think, is an extension of the asylum system, and the asylum system is the extension of like the witch trials, because like, you never go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist usually. I mean, you don't come away with a good diagnosis. They don't say, hey, yeah, you were hearing these voices or whatever, but you just don't just ignore them and you're okay, right? They're like, you got a disorder, you got a disease, you got an illness, you're mentally ill, you have a some kind of disease, you have mental disorder or disease, and then the
Take
disorders in
medication.
general, I consider a lot of them as potential enhancements, like witch powers, and I think I could see, somebody that had ADHD like myself. I was diagnosed with that as a kid, right? The way I think, and it's neurodivergent. I would say it's neurodivergent in general, as because everything's a disorder. So like it could be disordered if it does cause negative effects in your life. ADHD people are very creative, and a lot of them, it doesn't actually cause negative things in their life. I mean, the creative part, but there's always, So I would actually argue that modern psychology is very negative, especially to magic people. And basically all the personality disorders, all these, they're either uh, uh, neurodivergent like ADHD or autism, where you think differently than other people, and they're like, I don't like that. Or, subconsciously they're like, I don't like that. I don't like your personality. So I'm going to call it a personality disorder. So addiction personality disorder. We've got, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. It's all these listed disorders, and there is no cure for them. They're just gonna be managed. They can't be cured with medication. Like bipolar, bipolar, actually they could try to give stuff, like lithium and things like that to balance, because there is actual chemicals. These other disorders are considered sociopathy. Or it's like the person is just born like that. They're born like with a first person syndrome, where they think they're the only person that's alive, and everybody else is kind of a non-person, non-player character. So I could do all these bad things. I mean, sociopaths and psychopaths don't feel guilt. And then the step further is this first person disorder, where they're saying this person knows that they don't feel guilt, and the reason they don't feel the guilt is they don't think anybody else really exists, because they're kind of like a god, or they're the player. They're the player in the game, and this is just some guy standing up to the side that you just, in Assassin's Creed, that you blow up or you stab or something. It's like nothing. So that's that. So I say modern psychology, I think it still has a lot to do with the witch trials, and a lot of I think of most of the people I've run into in the occult have something that would be considered a disorder, whether mostly probably ADHD, or autism, which they're finding in autism and ADHD are both kind of on the same spectrum. It's just what they would call uh, autism before they came up with they
Well, you
renaissance the
are.
term by having all this high functioning autism instead of the low function. When I was a kid, autism was like childhood schizophrenia. So it was like people just really couldn't express themselves at all. It wasn't that they're just, I mean, what they would call people now that call themselves autism for black, I know it's not politically correct. They would just say they were retarded or,
Right.
know.
Well, you had mentioned that modern psychology and things like that, not having you don't walk away with a good diagnosis, like you were saying, oh, you're mentally
Hmm.
unstable here, you got to take medication, all this different
Hmm.
stuff. Um, yeah, you'd have to think then that the modern field of psychology would be in bed with the medical establishment to sell
Hmm.
medication to people. Say, okay, well, yeah, here you go, take this. This is what you
Hmm.
need now. Yeah, there has to be a connection there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think it ties into too is the self-medicating. It's very confusing for people. Like I had a real problem with and because me personally, I felt that this was a counterintuitive, where I would get somebody who identifies as an addict, and all the people that were coming were straight out of prison. So by the time they got done doing 10 years in prison, they were all saying I'm an addict, and that's why I ended up in prison, basically, right? Because that's just kind of like what the script is, right? And then once they would get clean in prison or they would do that, then they would probably, they would probably be, well, this is the crazy self when you're not on drugs, right? You're still not okay. We still don't like it. You're still causing disturbances. You're still, causing people to call the cops on you. So now you got to take this medication. So don't take these drugs, take these drugs. And sometimes those drugs, just, it's just because, it's presented in another light. Some of these drugs, that people are given cause people to do self-harm more. I mean, well, look at the opioid epidemic, right? When they were throwing out Norco like nothing, they were just giving that away almost, And we found that, now you can't get it because that was the medical, the big pharma was pushing like basically kind of like a heroin type of drug on people, in the pill form in the Norco or oxycodone or whatever. So, they make mistakes too, and then people don't like put them in prison though, and say, well, you're an addict or you've got some kind of personality disorder to even come up with a concept of oxycodone and Pfizer and all that of putting this stuff out and getting all these people addicted and overdoses and all that. They don't really say, well, they'll just say like, well, that's just like medical, it's trial and error. They practice wrong or something,
Right.
most of the time. I mean, I think that company did
Yeah.
eventually get a lot of suits from the people that overdose and stuff. But but yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing. Now we have fentanyl, which is I
Well,
think worse,
well,
so
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
you'd have to believe that the reason a lot of people have illness, whether it be physical illness, mental illness, is because of the medical establishment pushing these drugs, pushing
Hmm.
them, and then it just gives them more issues. But
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at like anyone like Suboxone and the Vivitrol shot was originally created for alcohol abuse, but they use it to treat fentanyl addiction, any type of opioid addiction. Look, they'll give you pain medication. Like you can go to the doctors. They'll give you Percocet. They'll give you Suboxone, and they
Mhm.
want to keep you on that. Like they don't
Yeah,
want to let the prisoner go.
Hmm.
Like
no,
so, I would advise people to not even get started. Even if your doctor is prescribing you something like Suboxone or something.
Hmm.
I mean, that stuff, all that stuff's hard to get off.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, the thing too is with that kind of stuff too is there's just I mean, it's just like a way that people, and it's like they're justified. Like I had a hard time with the people I was dealing with, because they were literally, because I was actually a substance abuse counselor and a caseworker for parole, like around 2007, right when the opioid crisis was kicking off in 2011. So a lot of people were on the opioids, but they were identified as heroin addicts and so they're going to places. Sometimes they were like nodding off because of oxycodone, but you're like, well, hey, what's going on? You look like you're on drugs. Oh, well, that's just oxycodone. I'm prescribed. You can't tell me what to take. And then nowadays, then came the marijuana. So you have people going to a Narcotics Anonymous or alcohol or some kind of anonymous group, and then firing up a joint in the parking lot. I mean, So then people are like, well, what, old school people are like, that doesn't make sense. There's a lot. And then just to briefly touch, because this kind of does go to the healing, but it's like a negative healing to a certain degree, I guess. Like, back in the old West days, there was this thing called laudanum, which was basically a form of morphine that people could take in little bottles, laudanum, for pain and stuff like that. And they actually, people were getting addicted to that and they were dying from it and stuff. So they were coming up with another thing that would help people that were to get off of laudanum, right? Well, Coca-Cola tried it with a cocaine mixture, but it didn't work out. That guy, he was addicted to laudanum, and he actually made Coca-Cola, which he never got the rights to because he sold them to get more laudanum. It didn't work. So, but he was trying to make a cocaine experiment to try to get off laudanum.
He's
So
doing
to get off
speedballs for
laudanum,
crying out
they
loud.
created heroin. They created heroin to counteract laudanum, and then they got methadone to counteract heroin. And then now
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
Suboxone or method, or sometimes even methadone is used for everything now to get people off fentanyl. And they created fentanyl to actually address the opioid problem. Like I had a family member that actually died from that. He had a fentanyl patch, and that was the idea. Is if you gave somebody, that was the problem that people were having, is they would give them Norco or they'd give them oxycodone, and they just take overtake the pills, the prescription. It's hard to control that, right? But if you have a patch, it just durally goes in slowly, this and that. But obviously they're gonna find a way so that my family member actually cut off a piece of the patch and chewed it to get high from fentanyl, and he got so high that he actually he killed himself over it. So
Sorry to
this
hear
is
Wow.
that,
and
man.
that was prescribed to him. That was prescribed medication to him. He did misuse it by cutting it off and chewing it, but if it's that easy, I don't know. How do you control that? How do you control if you give somebody 100 pills of it's say take one a day and they take 50 the first day, how do you control, it's just you in the pill bottle, the doctor's out there saying no.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
what they're counting on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, it's been a good chat. A lot of good information. Once again, you can check out Guion's links below in the video description. Shemosh has a channel. You can check that out below in the video description. Anything you guys want to say before we call it a night?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Next time we'll talk about kameas, which are like talismans or the
Yeah,
seals of Solomon, how to consecrate them, uh, so on and so forth, what each seal
sounds good.
actually does. So yeah, we'll talk about that next time,
I
guys.
just wanted
Looking
to
forward to
mention
that. Go
uh,
ahead.
I wanted to mention and I think it might have seemed to like that we go off topic, but that is a big thing about healing is you can get things that is meant to be the cure or whatever, and it turns out to be worse or just as bad as what you think you're trying to heal, and that's why I think we went into the drugs more, in the oxycodone and the opioid crisis and the fentanyl crisis and the methadone crisis and all these. So these are actually like things that people are trying to give you to heal, I mean, and feel better.
Yeah,
But
I
a lot
think
of
it
times it
does.
makes it worse, or it's just as bad, or it's worse. And now you're dependent
Well,
instead of on heroin, you're dependent now on methadone or Suboxone, which is so. I mean, what does that make it better? Because it's like this is a different,
the
somewhat of
thing
a
is
mellower
that
chemical, you know?
the information that you gave on the medical establishment and on drugs, it's good because a lot of people watching this, I'm sure, are suffering from that. And so you need to be able to understand the ins and outs of that in order to get to the bottom of it.
Oh
So
yeah, for
yes,
sure.
it
And I
does
think it
tie in.
fits into the more of a cult view of
Yeah,
healing and medicine and stuff to understand that like we were talking about in another video, or I don't know if it was this one, about breaking norms and things like that. And like so that in a sense
right.
that is kind of a breaking a taboo or a norm to like say, well, the doctor said this, but I don't want to do that. And there
Yeah,
was second
exactly.
opinions and stuff.
That's
But there's a lot of doctors that give out pain medication that make people worse. And you could even get a second opinion. They'd say, like, "We'll take this, take that." And the sad thing
right.
is, people like it. They most people wouldn't want to get a second opinion if they got. Most people go to the doctor with the intent of getting opioids or something that makes them feel like that.
Exactly. Make up excuses as to
So
why
yeah,
it's
so
good
so
for
I
them.
think addiction ties into healing, and it's really tricky to navigate that. So that's why I wanted to get into
Yeah.
that more. Maybe we could
Cool.
touch on that later too. We could do a whole thing on addiction or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I'm down
Maybe.
for that. That's a good idea. We can talk about that. But yeah, thanks guys for your time, and everyone
Yeah,
who's
anytime.
watching. Make
My
Yeah,
pleasure.
everyone who's watching, make sure you like and subscribe to Light Sorcery.